There we go. Okay, I'm live. Perfect. This is gonna be a little bit unusual, but hopefully it'll be fine all the same. Let me close that out. There we go. Oops, gotta move Discord. Haha, funny. Um, I guess I can have this on my primary monitor. Uh, no, you know what? I want to have this on my secondary monitor so that I can pull like one tab at a time up so it can look pretty clean. So everything doesn't look like a jumble of mental illness on my browser. All right, how are we doing? I'm doing stressed. That's how I'm doing. Uh, I guess, without the Mario Kart, it's going to be pretty straightforward as to what I'm going to be talking about and the pace at which I'm going to be talking about it. Not a whole lot of room to bury the lead. That doesn't mean I won't anyway, but I guess I can begin. I'll begin with the obvious. You know what? Fuck it. I was considering doing a small lead up, but let's just start off with a bang here. Where is the, let's see, will this give me what I want to see? No. I don't know why, but it will not. Not game capture. Display capture? There we go. Yeah, Israel bombed Iran. And I mean they bombed Iran. Like every major city. I started looking at this late last night, because that's about when it happened. Then after I talk about this, I think I want to check something in my alerts on Twitch. So let's scroll all the way down. What do we got? Down here. That's great. Israeli military confirms strikes. Times of Israel reports that Israeli military confirmed attacking Iran in an operation dubbed Rising Lion. Great. Israel, Lion, India, also Lion, etc., etc. Awesome. And by awesome, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, this rogue state is going to get everybody killed. Several sounds of explosions heard across Tehran. Yeah, they hit Tehran. They didn't hit military targets strictly either. This is military. So their standard operating procedure is that they also bomb civilian areas. I think they hit some apartment buildings, but I'll get to that if I can find it. Israeli military says it struck military and nuclear sites. I don't doubt that they did, like, hit some of them at least, but, U.S. not involved in strikes against Iran. I actually believe this. The U.S. will just kind of pick up after Israel when it just decides to go Joker mode. But now we are involved because, the United States has taken a rhetorical line of defending Israel here. U.S.-Iran talks unlikely on Sunday. I wonder fucking why. This is a shocking, admission giving the game away. Benjamin Netanyahu says strikes on Iran will continue as long as necessary. The Israeli Prime Minister says the attacks are aimed at Iran's nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and military capabilities. This operation will continue as long as necessary until we complete the mission, Netanyahu said in a statement. His objective here is to just keep the war machine churning so that he can stay in office for long enough to, dodge, I don't know, corruption charges or some shit like that. He just wants to stay in power, and that's why he's doing all this. The fucked up thing, though, is that at this point, Benjamin Netanyahu is actually, in Israel, would be a lesser evil than whoever would build a government after he's gone. The Israeli people have now, because Israel has huffed the fumes of their own propaganda for long enough, the population of Israel has now sailed way beyond the position even of Netanyahu. They're even more genocidal than he is because he's still, as a politician, kind of aware of the international pressures that are on him to not, clamp down on Gaza, killing everybody all at once. And, kind of understands the pace at which he needs to go. Whereas the average Israeli literally believes that they should just kill everyone in Gaza fuck the consequences, something, something, Jewish state, something. You know? Flight suspended in Tehran. That makes sense. Oh, this is Greenwich Mean Time. Okay, so it's witnessing genocide. That's just Tuesday. Well, we might also be witnessing regional war. Although, given what Iran said recently, I kind of doubt that. I genuinely don't know how Iran is going to justify not responding here, but I'll get to that when I get to that. Attack focused on neighborhood in Tehran known as residential area for military officials. In other words, they bombed a residential neighborhood. Like, yeah, sure, military officers live there, I guess. I missed what now? Israel bombed every major Iranian city, targeting residential areas. Here in the capital, around 3 a.m. local time, we heard sounds of explosions. Between 6 to 9 explosions have been reported in the capital, and I personally heard 2 of them at least. It has been said that these explosions did not happen in one certain place, but rather different parts of the city. State TV has confirmed the happening of the explosions and has just shown footage of different places, which we can clearly see smoke coming out of the scene. We know so far of different parts in the western neighborhood of the capital. Residential area known for having buildings that relate to the residence of military officials. So in classic Israeli fashion, they targeted military officials by bombing civilians, where the military officials maybe live, I guess. That was not on my June bingo list. I mean, it wasn't really on mine either, but like... You know, I guess that's what you get from a rogue state. You know, Israel is completely fucking insane. Like, this is even like I mentioned earlier that Netanyahu decided to do this kind of military escalation with Iran because fascism needs a permanent state of crisis. But when viewing it from the top down, you have to have that crisis, that state of war, in a relatively controlled way so that the autocrat can stay in power, right? Netanyahu's facing corruption charges in Israel. Like, people don't really like him, but they'll put up with him in the war cabinet so long as there's a war going on that's fresh in people's minds. The less fresh that the genocide in Gaza is in the minds of the Israeli people, the more Netanyahu needs to start something else to stay in power. That's why he's doing this. That's why they're doing this. And of course, it bears mentioning that Netanyahu is actually, at this point, less bloodthirsty than the average Israeli. I can't fucking believe I'm saying that, but that seems to be what the polling data reflects, where a majority, not even a plurality, a majority of Israelis believe that we should just kill everyone in Gaza now. There's no such thing as a civilian in Gaza. All of them are to be considered the enemy. They must be wiped out, which is further than even Netanyahu is willing to go because he recognizes there are still international constraints on him, at least from a public perspective, like a public relations perspective, to allow some kind of humanitarian aid to get into the Gaza Strip, if only to sort of appease the West just enough to get them off of his back while he continues with the war cabinet. You know? Game on, says key U.S. Senator. Of course, fucking Lindsey Graham. Ooh. Game on, pray for Israel. God, this country's so cucked. I guess, you know, this would be one of the things that America has learned from past conflicts, right? It's not like this is the first massively unpopular set of military escalations the United States has been involved in. This is just the only one where it's not directly the United States doing it. Or like how they're doing their genocide again. Oh, hope with autocorrected in there. I don't quite take the meaning. At what point, if the U.S. were to withdraw from the Middle East through one mechanism or another, e.g., to decline decline to the point of completely dropping out. Middle Eastern powers would be justified in politely removing Israel. Serious question. Oh, genuinely, there is like the amount of force and violence against the state of Israel that I would consider justified in order to stabilize the Middle East has been escalating to such a point that if I said the like peak of what would be justified to do against Israel on the part of other nation states in the region, you know, should America pull out in that situation, I would be banned from Twitch. Like, legitimately, that is the level to which we are talking here. Like, there is so much shit that could happen to Israel that would be really bad from the perspective of the Israeli population that I would say, you know what? Yes, that's justified, because otherwise you still have a rogue state in the region that is wreaking havoc. I will not specify what, because again, that would get me banned from Twitch, but that is how insane Israel is acting right now. Autocorrect, force the word hope in there. Oh, okay. Remember this one time someone got blocked for supporting the evil ideology of pacifism. Yeah. What was it? I think somebody, not somebody. It was Vaush himself. I remember back in the day, he got banned for saying "Glass Israel" back in like 2019 or something. You know, we disavow for the purposes of not getting banned off of Twitch.tv, but to give you an idea of like, the escalation that we're at this point. There's a few updates at the top. I'm trying to get to, yeah, okay, civilians killed. In other words, Israeli state behaves as the Israeli state usually does. Strike on residential buildings. Number of people, including women and children, were martyred in a residential complex in Tehran. Official IRNA news agency reported. For anybody not familiar with this kind of framing, martyred is a religious framing, but this is not like a jihadist, like hardline Islamist framing. Every majority Muslim country will say martyred, and with respect to like people being injured or killed, because that's basically the word, that's how they translate like the word casualties. You know, how we would frame it secularly as there were this many casualties including both injuries and deaths. When you see the term martyred, that's what that means, you know? And obviously there are religious overtones and undertones to this, but you know, this is the term that every major like Islamic country will use, from Iran to Palestine to you know, Algeria, Tunisia, all of those. They all say it like this. How do y'all think Iran is going to react? I have my own thoughts on the matter, and I will get to that in just a second. First thing I want to do is try to get to the point where I saw last night. Now, I'm in the East Coast time zone, which means GMT, what is it, -5? So, here, hold on. GMT -5. Time zones. Thank you, Phoenix Contact. Very cool. New York. Okay, yeah, that's my time zone. So I'm looking for something at about 4 or 5 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. That's when I saw this developing. Iran's capital, Tehran. No way it can join the war. It probably has to respond just as hard, if not harder. Yeah, Iran is, like, actually going through it right now. Iranian American advocacy group denounces Israeli strikes. It seems pretty par for the course. All right. Israeli military chief says army mobilizing tens of thousands of soldiers. Oh man, Israel might actually be like, I don't know. Israel might be committing to the bit harder than I've seen. Yeah, this is an example of one of the strikes that Israel did. This is a you can probably tell this is an apartment building. Multi-layered attacks targeting both the missile program and its nuclear program, and they did so by bombing apartment buildings. Bravo. How long has Israel been killing people anyways? When was the State of Israel created? 1948? That's when it was created by like the UN and Britain. Basically, this is essentially how Israel has behaved for as long as it's existed. The State of Israel has its roots in the modern State of Israel has its roots both in white supremacy of the European brand, American settler colonialism, and the Nazi-aligned militias that later became the Likud party. The one that comes to mind to me being the Irgun. Particularly, that one survived into the early days of Israel, became, I think it was like the Freedom Party or something, which then became the Likud Party, which is the current party in government. And their tactic was actually very reminiscent, and in fact, became integrated into the IDF's current operating procedure, which is they bomb civilian areas, first sending like leaflets or flyers saying, hey, we're about to bomb this civilian target, so every civilian should leave. That way we can bomb this building and you won't die. You know, it was effectively a way for them to commit war crimes, but nicely enough so that the UN wouldn't scrutinize them as hard. This has been their standard method of operating for the entire existence of the State of Israel. That it's not to say they have limited themselves to that, but basically what I'm saying is that the entire project of the Israeli state has been one of killing and forcibly removing civilians from their places of residence. Remember the part 3 where Jojo skipped that area to avoid politics? Yeah, I do remember that. I remember that they, you know, going all over the place, and they did not stop in Palestine. Although I actually feel like, I don't know, this is kind of tangential. I feel like if a Japanese show were to touch on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict at the time that, you know, JoJo Part 3 was being written and recorded, as an anime and whatnot, I feel like the showrunners and, like, you know, the Japanese outlook on politics, to the extent that their government says stuff on the international stage, would land more on the side of Palestine, because Japan post-World War II has been very hardline pacifist for various reasons. Some of them organic, some of them imposed from the top down, something like that. You know. Reminds me of the IRA's tactics. They'd call somewhere they were going to bomb and tell them, look, we're going to bomb you. Everyone should leave. Yeah, that kind of shit, basically. JoJo's famous for not liking police, even though he called himself a bully. That's based. Love that for JoJo. Video captures destruction following Israeli attacks on residential area of Tehran. I am going to bring up this screen while I look at this video. Turn off that audio, please. Okay, I'm going to describe what we're seeing. I'm seeing a residential neighborhood in what is it, Tehran? Yeah, Tehran's northern residential neighborhood of Agdasi. I don't speak whatever language they speak in Iran. I don't speak Iranian, so it's best I can do. All right, looking at residential buildings. There's some smoke coming from. Oh wait. Oh whoa. Hold on. Maybe I should bring this back. This is post the bombing already happening. I didn't realize this is a chunk of building that's just gone. They bombed that building, and that's, like, gone now. All right, I'm going to go back here again on the off chance that anything like TOS happens. Smoldering wreckage of, apartment building. Oh, there's some more, you can see here, there's some smoke in the distance there. Another apartment building got hit. Looking around, there's some construction happening. Makes sense, it's a city. And yeah, okay. You know, that's an autocorrect error. The second part does open with beating up the police. Oh yeah. It's I remember that. The opening of part 2, battle tendency, where fucking Joseph Joestar beats the shit out of some cops harassing a black kid. That was based. All right, say let me get back to this. Khamenei briefed on strikes. Okay, here. This is what makes me think that Iran actually might not respond very much. 1v3, you asked about this earlier. Truthfully, I actually don't think Iran is going to respond proportionately or in the sense that, like, I don't think Iran is going to acknowledge that they're kind of in a state of war now, which, I mean, look, you're between the rock and a hard place if you're in the Iranian government, right? Because if war starts, then the United States is going to gleefully leap to the defense of Israel, but either way, you're going to keep getting bombed. Israel must prepare for a bitter and painful fate following the attack. So they're doing the whole, like, finger wagging, ooh, you better watch out, you know? Publish a statement from the state news agency. Great nation of Iran, the Zionist regime at dawn today opened its dirty and bloody hand to a crime in our beloved country and revealed its evil nature more than ever by striking residential centers. The regime must expect severe punishment. The powerful hand of the Islamic Republic's armed forces will not abandon him, God willing. Okay, great. Several commanders and scientists were martyred in the enemy attacks. Their successors and colleagues will immediately resume their duties, God willing. Oh yeah, God willing is also something that people in majority Muslim countries say a lot. Inshallah is the I think inshallah is just is classical Arabic, which the Quran is written in. Everybody in the Muslim world knows what inshallah means. It means God willing, and they're like, it's like a statement of like, let us hope this happens, or you know, this is what we would like to happen. With this crime, Zionist regime prepares itself for a bitter and painful fate, they will definitely receive it. Yeah, kind of the finger wagging thing. I mean, again, very religious country, state and church are deeply connected in Iran. That's how that works over there. And even though, like, obviously they're correct in saying that Israel is a Zionist state, there's some undertones of like real anti-Semitism here. Or ain't no option. The cat in the corner can make weird moves, as we say. Yeah. It's like you know, people in a desperate situation can do desperate things. UN nuclear watchdog confirms Natanz site targeted in Iran. IAEA says the UN body is closely monitoring the situation. Agency can confirm Natanz site among targets. The agency is in contact with Iranian authorities regarding radiation levels. We are also in contact with our inspectors in the country. So it's possible that Iran has been developing nuclear weapons, but ultimately that's actually neither here nor there, because it was the United States that tore up that deal. And either way, it did provide some room for Iran to do fuel enrichment for fuel. Well, fuel enrichment for fuel. Great, thank you. Nuclear enrichment for fuel purposes, you know, like having nuclear reactors and stuff. So it's possible that many of these nuclear sites are, they could be weapons development sites, or they could be power plants, in which case there is also a risk of, like radiation and stuff like that. So, U.S. Senator says Iran-Israel war disastrous for the region. Chris Murphy's probably going to say some, like, watered-down half-measures shit. Israeli strikes clearly intended to scuttle the Trump administration's diplomacy with Iran. A cowardly fucking framing. This is a disaster of Trump and Netanyahu's own making. And now the region risks spiraling towards a new deadly conflict. War between Israel and Iran may be good for Netanyahu's domestic politics. This is what I said earlier. But it will likely be disastrous for both the security of Israel, the United States, and the rest of the region. He added that the U.S. has no obligation to follow Israel into a war with Iran. Citation needed. The military-industrial complex would beg to differ with that one. So, you know, half correct, half cowardly. What can you expect? Third wave of Israeli attacks. Alright, here we go. Where has Israel attacked Iran? The capital of Tehran. The city of Natanz, south of Tehran, where they have the uranium enrichment facility. The city of Tabriz, city of Isfahan, city of Arak, city of Kermanshah. So areas around Tehran and you know, other major cities. You know, one of which did contain a nuclear power or enrichment site, but you know, this is not common to all of these. It's just the bombing civilian shit. Country at point of no return. I mean, yeah, obviously, Israel is escalating here. China warns citizens in Israel to prepare for potential attacks. Here's some more photos. Cars and apartments having been destroyed. Reminds me, people think religion is just a small corner. I wish that was the case. You know, a lot of this is not even being motivated by religion. The government... Dog, I'm stressed the fuck out. You join the club, mate. The government of Israel is not a religiously motivated Jewish government. In fact, some of the most religious Jews have been vehemently opposed to Israel's actions because it threatens peace and stability between believers of God, basically. And that, like, you know, we should, like, coexist with the Palestinians and like the Muslims in the regions, that sort of thing. Just got a D plus when I need a C minus. Oof. That hurts. No, the Israeli government, the state of Israel is ethno-nationalist. They are Jewish. They are a Jewish nation, like Jewish ethno-state, with an emphasis on the Jewish ethnicity, not the Jewish religion. Because when people have cited the Jewish religion and Jewish religious ideas to refute the ongoing colonization of Gaza and the West Bank, they have been punished by the state, both in Israel and the United States. This is a project from the US's perspective of military-industrial complex capital, through which they can keep a war going on, so they can funnel infinite money into defense contractors. And from Israel's perspective, this is a goal of ethnic cleansing and ethnic supremacy and fascistic expansionism that has little to nothing to do with religion, except insofar as it can justify those prior projects, genocide included. Reminds me of that bit in Shameless where Frank is ranting about the Palestinians to that Jewish guy, and he's like, I support a two-state solution. I support a one-state solution where whatever that fucking area is called, it's not called Israel, and everybody has equal rights there. Honestly, that's where I'm at. Because right now we have a 1.5 state solution where Israel gets to, like, pinprick a fucking voodoo doll of Palestine, and Palestine is just a voodoo doll and doesn't have any real agency, and you know, like, shit just sucks, but the military-industrial complex walks away pretty happy. Oh yeah, by the way, this picture, these are all the cities that were struck. It's like every major city in like western Iran for the most part. There might be some big cities over here, but I'm not sure. I'm not super familiar with Iranian geography. Oh, here's a diagram of Iran's potential, like, armaments and stuff. What am I looking at here? We got the pink. We got these like turquoise things. Okay, so they have missiles. Great. Big country have missile, and they could hit Israel, potentially, maybe. All right. Iran says the U.S. will also be responsible for Israel's adventure. I mean, it is adventurism, that's for sure. Iran's foreign ministry says Tehran has a legal and legitimate right to respond to Israeli attacks under the UN Charter. Oh, this is actually really funny. Like, as fucked up as this whole situation is that now, because these attacks are basically unprompted on the part of Israel to like, to attack Iran. Yeah, crazy. Big country has missiles in 2025. Now Iran is on the rhetorical foot of saying we have a right legally to defend ourselves in this instance. Except in the case of Iran, they were actually struck in civilian areas by a hostile military force, and in Israel's case, it was one terrorist attack that they used as a springboard to kill everybody in sight, basically. You know? And I bet you dollars to donuts, because I have literally seen this happen well before October 7th, by the way, full 5 years before, that you can ask the same question with two different countries and get two different answers. Does Israel have a right to defend itself? And every pro-Israel Zionist Andy will say yes. And then you can ask, does Iran have a right to defend itself? Excuse me. Nations don't have genders, because that shit is made up. Does Iran have a right to defend itself? And the same people will say unequivocally, no. Which underwrites two significant points. Number one, these people are evil and don't believe anything. Number two, nation states don't have rights. They're nation states. They do what they do by force, or by implicit, like, acceptance of who gets to use force. Law has nothing to do with it. Countries violate international law all the time. Rights are for people. Force is what nation states engage in. Far-reaching effects and consequences. Our beloved homeland Iran will be responsibility to its regime and its supporters. But again, because of the rhetoric, because of the very theatrical rhetoric that Iran is choosing to engage in here, putting out a lot of statements, then it makes me feel like there's not going to be a real response on the part of Iran here. You know, does that make sense? Remember, this happened last time. Israel launched a volley of missiles into Iran, and then Iran, in response, launched a volley of drones over to Israel, and they did blow some things up, but it was a pretty small response, all things considered. They just put out a lot of statements about, the Zionist regime is so evil and stuff, right? And nothing really came of it. I kind of worry, in one way or the other, right? If Iran responds in a meaningful way, militarily, it's World War III, right? And that probably doesn't mean nuclear war, but it does mean a very long grind, characteristic of how the United States behaved in basically the operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, where it would be a forever war. But if Iran doesn't respond, it effectively gives carte blanche for Israel to do this again, and to basically do unlimited bombing campaigns. Oh wow, that really was like... Oh, I guess they targeted nuclear power plants and research centers, which in civilian areas. Anyways, it effectively not responding, where responding would invoke a forever war, which might be World War III. Not responding means that Israel basically gets to do unlimited bombing of its Middle Eastern neighbors, and development in the region gets set back for fucking forever, and the status quo of Israel committing genocide and getting away with it relatively scot-free persists, because they're the military-industrial complex's attack dog that conveniently allows them to siphon infinite money from Western economies. Does that make sense? Am I making sense when I say that? That's what I mean when I say between a rock and a hard place. I guess that applies to all of us, but like particularly the government of Iran is, I'm positive that they either have considered this or are considering this. Like, if we respond, it's an actual war. If we don't respond, they're going to bomb us again because we didn't really respond. There's not like a good answer here, because Israel, like I said, is a rogue state. They don't give a shit what any of the rules say. Yeah. And here, look, to validate the points that we've been making. Israel is right, top U.S. lawmaker. This is House Speaker Mike Johnson, one of the top-ranking Republicans. American lawmakers and officials are vocally backing up Israel here, saying, like, yeah, Israel gets to just do this and get away with it. They're like, that's fine if they do this, and we'll, like, I don't know, kill you if you disagree or something in Minecraft. Israel attack part of a broad regional plan made with approval of the U.S. Oh yeah, this definitely got by the U.S. Like, the U.S. knew about this, but yeah. I can honestly see the coin flip either way. Yeah, I can too. Like we were saying, desperate... It's like... Desperate actors in a political sense, like geopolitical actors, can do desperate things. Let's see some of the newer updates. Because that was, again, that was like late last night when I was first seeing some of this stuff. Okay. Analysis: Iran's new military commanders need time to respond. I don't know. I think the time might have actually run up on this. Here's another perspective. Maybe starting a full-on major war is a plus from their perspective. Is if assuming the U.S. intervenes, tries to send military backup, this is just going to turn the current civil discontent and unrest up by about 1 billion times. You know what? Maybe that's true. There could be a reason for them to be like, you know what? Fuck it. I guess we got to commit to the bit here because it unifies the country. Iran being having been subject to a lot of protests in the recent few years, the government might like to kind of take care of that public sentiment. And I guess if they can do it in a way that doesn't involve making people more angry at them, that probably makes sense. And if it makes Americans mad at the American government for getting involved in a war, that they might take that opportunity. Yeah, that makes sense. Aftermath of Israeli strikes. Yeah, here's an apartment that was leveled. At least it looks like this was an apartment. Can't fucking tell because there's not much of it left. Stabilize their own country while badly inflaming the current unrest in the U.S. Yeah, and Iran's geography actually lends it to a similar geopolitical position as Afghanistan. Afghanistan is known by historians as the graveyard of empires. Empires that invade Afghanistan do not live for very long afterwards. This was true of Russia in the I believe 19th century. This was true of the Soviets in the 20th century, excuse me. This is true of the United States in the 21st century because the mountainous terrain and the tribal life that has gone on there for so long lends the country and the landscape very well to a domestic defense. It's incredibly hard to capture. And so when an empire tries to make show of military might or otherwise geopolitical might, which is, there's a lot of overlap, by contesting a country like that in the region, it's doomed to fail because, you kind of just can't really conquer it. There's not, it's a combination of there not being much there to conquer, as well as, the terrain being incredibly hostile to marching because there's so many mountains and there's goat farmers that have lived there for millennia that now have guns and will shoot at you from the hills. Iran has killed a fair share of empires too. Yeah, because the similar geography, especially, you try to invade from the west, you're basically fucked. Or from the east as well. The east is also very mountainous. Actually, I mixed those up. I meant to say east first and then west, but both the east and the west in Iran are very mountainous areas. Internet blackout in Gaza. Let's see. Macron criticizes Iran. Dude, Macron is a fucking goof, dude. I have no fucking idea what this guy is doing on the international stage. I guess it's characteristic of the centrist lib. He's trying to play both sides of it. I don't know what he's doing, and I don't know if he knows what he's doing either. UN conference on Palestinian statehood postponed. Great. Fucking hell. Israel seals off the occupied West Bank. Oh boy! We're about to... Oh man. Oh fuck. If this ends up being a potential distraction for Israel to close in on the West Bank as well, or on Gaza even harder, that's gonna be really bad. Israeli military attacked nuclear facility in Isfahan. Yeah, we saw that they struck Isfahan already. But again, I think most of the sites that they were striking is nuclear power plants. Macron's like a caricature of an annoying centrist at this point. Yeah, he is kind of a self-caricature, right? He thinks he's the main character. He thinks he's him, but everybody hates him. Nobody fucking, likes that guy. And nobody has any idea what he's doing because he's constantly trying to play both sides of a contradictory political spectrum. And that means I don't think he really knows what he's doing either. And characteristic of those types, he gets mad at the left when they, defend a consistent set of principles and just kind of moves towards the right. I don't know. Reza Pahlavi? Fuck this. Oh, okay, that's why. I see. Because oh no, wait, that's this guy. I'm blind. The older guy is Reza Pahlavi. Pahlavi, not Pavlovi. I fucking read a V in there where it wasn't. My B. Going after U.S. bases in Iraq would be really risky. Yeah, it would. Israel says it detected missile launches from Iran. This could be reminiscent of the last time such a volley, like exchange volley, happened, where Iran does a limited response. Still the sound of explosions ringing around in Tehran. I can hear people shouting Allahu Akbar across the street. Something is happening. Also, again, this is another thing that people just say a lot in Muslim countries. It's like a general expression of "Oh my God" or like "God help me" or "Thank God" or something like that. You know how we say a lot of stuff that's like "Oh, thank God" or "Oh my God" or something like that. Those are a bunch of different expressions in the West, but like in Muslim countries, it's mostly just one expression, and it's Allahu Akbar. Like people will say this when they welcome you into their house. You know, it tends to be more religious conservative types. But you know, it's like God is good. Yeah, that's basically like when we say holy shit, if you translate that to Arabic or you know whatever, you would just say Allahu Akbar. Because it's a general exclamation. Satellite images reveal the extent of damage to Iran's Natanz nuclear site. Institute has obtained high-resolution satellite data. Wow, they sure did blow it up. Pilot fuel enrichment. Yeah, okay, so it's fuel enrichment. Let me see this. Image. Protective cage penetrated. Emergency response vehicles there. Okay. Oh, what does this tweet read? Imagery shows damage and destruction to several buildings around the complex and the on-site electrical substation that provides power to the facility. There's no visible damage to the below-ground enrichment facility, nor to the new complex being constructed under this mountain, I suppose, just south of Natanz. Complete destruction is the complete destruction is significant, given that the facility holds over 1,700 advanced centrifuges, includes a bunch of... Okay, so they have a lot of equipment. R&D for new types of advanced centrifuges. You know, I was kind of passively wondering whether this was a fuel enrichment plant just for the purposes of, like, powering people's homes, like a regular old nuclear power plant would, or whether it was for something military, but I guess that information wouldn't be known to the public, but it's also not terribly relevant, because, you know, even though this is a target of military interest, it's not like Israel contained their strikes to this target, or had a reason to just strike Iran in the first place, you know? I think, you know, Israel strikes so many civilian targets that we tend to focus on that, rightly so, because, like, holy shit, you're just bombing random people. But again, we have to consider that, like, you're not allowed to just fucking bomb another country. That you like, the international war states that if war is declared, you have to actually declare it with cause and shit like that, where, you know, you don't get to just strike a fucking random country's nuclear development site, unless, I guess, you're Israel or the United States, in which case you can kind of do whatever you want. I don't know. UK foreign minister urges calm. That's great. Yeah, the UK is pretty cooked as well. Okay. Not too late for Tehran to halt the bombing campaign by reaching a deal on its nuclear program. What deal, motherfucker? You tore up the deal. Get this fucker out of here. Israel must expect severe punishment following the crime of attacking Iran and killing several top-level military commanders and 6 nuclear scientists. Military operator. Okay, so yeah, this basically recaps all the points that I made throughout the, you know, us looking at the live blog here. Netanyahu is doing this because he wants to stay in power, and fascism needs to be in a constant state of war or crisis, interchangeable for the most part. And somehow the Israeli people are actually even more Hitlerite than Netanyahu is, on average. And Iran knows that it's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it seems that they're choosing the option where they kind of finger wag, make a bunch of political statements, and then like maybe launch a small volley of missiles into Israel that doesn't pose much of a threat insofar as starting a broader conflict in the region. It is actually, since this started last night and I'm seeing all these details now and we still haven't gotten word of like a proper war starting, it seems like that's the road they're going to go down. Because to give you the alternate perspective, if the decision from Iran was truly to mobilize and acknowledge that there's like a state of war or whatever, then we would have gotten wind of that basically immediately after these strikes came, or potentially even before the strikes came. We would have known that both countries were on edge, and then it would war would have just erupted like that. The fact that this is so drawn out, and by so drawn out I mean even like double-digit hours, like that's still pretty long time to draw this out. Israeli people must be freaking out. No, dude, they're like frothing at the mouth. They want this. Like, what is it? Fucking Greater Israel? Let me see if I can look that up. Netanyahu, Greater Israel. Under fire. Okay, this is from 2023, this article, where it doesn't even have a picture. God dang it. Here, hold on. What opinion poll am I looking for? Here. Israel opinion poll Palestine 2025. No, Haaretz, what was going on? Okay. See, this is what I mean when I say Israel's are fucking insane and they want this. Look at this. Poll. This is from May 30th, this is 2 weeks ago. 82% of Israelis want to expel Palestinians from Gaza. 47% want to kill every man, woman, and child. This is the Israeli population, like representative sample. This is what the people of Israel generally believe. And it's because of two things. Number one, propaganda. Number two, pre-selection for the most insane people imaginable. Supporting expulsion of Gaza residents. Supporting expulsion of Israeli Arabs. Yeah, it's that bad. You don't hear about this a lot, but it is that bad. But funny thing, it wasn't this bad just a few years ago. Just a few short years ago, like 2021, 2022, it wasn't this bad. It was bad, but not this bad. Believing that all residents of a conquered enemy city should be killed. What is it? Secular, traditional, Orthodox, Haredi. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Most Israelis want to expel Palestinian citizens. And this is citizens of Israel, not Palestinians, not like Palestinians living in the West Bank and Gaza. These are Palestinians with Israeli citizenship. These are the second-class citizens of their own country, and they're saying, yeah, the majority consensus is they want to expel them. These are Israelis. I don't know how biased this paper is, but I don't have any reason to suspect this poll is off because, yeah, here we go. March 2025 poll of Israeli public opinion, commissioned by Pennsylvania State University and published by Haaretz. So that's what I mean when I say that like the Israeli public is on board with this, and that Netanyahu, for being in any way like capable of acknowledging the geopolitical realities that constrain him from basically doing this all at once, is less insane than the Israeli public. As crazy as that, like, that's why I acknowledge that it sounds fucking crazy, because it didn't used to be the case. At least as far as I know. Crushing retaliation against the Israeli attacks. Decisive response to the brutal attack began with the firing of hundreds of ballistic missiles at the occupied territories, it said. I don't know what that means per se. Here, hold on. Let me look this up now. Iranian missiles, Israel. Tel Aviv explosions in Tel Aviv. I don't trust CNN here. I'm gonna try to find some kind of information that indicating like what Iran did, what kind of missiles they launched, etc. Israel identifies incoming missiles launched from Iran. Defense systems are operating to intercept the missiles. Okay. It has instructed the public to seek shelter. See increasing security. Vessels of worship, Israeli diplomatic sites. Iranians demand retaliation. I fucking wonder why. Their cities just got bombed. Strikes make Iran more likely to negotiate seriously. Okay, Trump, whatever you say, buddy. Well, I guess, I don't know. I guess, like, the fucking Iran retaliation. Iran launches missiles and drones at Israel as Israel attacks Iranian nuclear sites and top commanders, IDF says. God, look at this framing. Look at the framing from the American news outlets. I'm guessing this will be on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Hope the world ain't playing Call of Duty Global yet. Yeah, let's hope not. Yeah, this probably will be a YouTube segment. I don't know. Hopefully, I won't have to do much editing since I'm just sitting here actually looking at the news segments or the news articles and stuff. CBS, Iran launches missiles and drones at Israel as Israel attacks nuclear sites. See, they have to fucking frame it as though these things are happening at the same time. Oh, you know, both sides. But no, we know that, like, Israel launched missiles at Iran, striking major cities, which prompted then a response. You know, Han shot first, etc., etc. Launched over 200 airstrikes on Iran. Continuing. Oh, wait, no, they actually do mean it. Never mind. Israel is still launching these fucking things. That's my beef. For fucking once, this title is actually correct. Israel is still launching missiles at Iran, which increases the risk that this could meaningfully escalate. If it was just a one-time deal, then I guess it would still be reasonable to expect that Iran settles for this one volley, but because Israel has seemed intent on, like, continuing, that might not be the case anymore. Dozens of Iranian ballistic missiles were en route to Israel, shortly after this. The country's population had to be instructed. Okay, yeah, can I get some info on, like, what Iran's doing? Early Friday. Yeah, we saw that already. The threat wasn't over, but Israel had managed to intercept many of Iran's UAVs. Yeah, Israel does have the Iron Dome. Which we pay for, by the way. Throughout the day, we once again demonstrated the ability to remove threats in a coordinated, precise, daring manner. Okay, great. Thank you. Puff piece on Israel. Can I get some info on Iran, though? Can you, like, shut the fuck up about Israel, CBS? Okay, can I get some info about Iran, though? I fucking hate American news, dude. How many times can you whack a dog around the head before it turns around and bites your face off? That's what I'm kind of wondering here. IDF said the operation would continue for days. First wave consisting of 200 Israeli fighter jets. Oh, it wasn't missiles. It was fighter jets that bombed. Okay, lefty misinfo. Over 330 different munitions to hit more than 100 targets in major cities, many of which in residential areas. Great, thank you. Breadth and scale of these strikes. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, so they're committing to the bit. The breadth and scale of these strikes against senior Iranian military officials, or senior Iranian officials, and not even just military officials, and other military facilities, in addition to nuclear sites. suggests this operation is intended not to just dissuade Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons, but also cripple any potential military response and even to destabilize the regime. This reminds me of the reason that Japan bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941. Am I saying that this is the same? No, obviously not. Israel is Israel, Japan is Japan, America is America, and Iran is Iran. These are different circumstances, but there are similarities in that the stated intent, or the intent of the attack was the same, to cripple any potential military response. And of course, we remember the Pearl Harbor attacks as the thing that got the US involved in the war that was already happening. Again, the difference is that there was already a broader war occurring, and here there probably isn't. I don't know. The fucking lines of what we consider war and what we don't is really blurry nowadays. But regardless, this makes me think that Iran might also commit to the bit, because Israel's like, yeah, we want to actually like cripple your whole country. Lefty spreading degenerate Hamas lies again. SMH my head. True. Uh, uh, average average DGG talking point or something. I don't know. I was reaching there. Something liberals something. Israel's once again demonstrated considerable conventional military superiority. Gluck, 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 gluck. Okay, cool. Iran's response might be delayed or split into multiple phases, but their main weapon will be ballistic missiles, which have the best chance of inflicting damage on Israel, whereas drone and cruise missile attacks will face more extensive Israeli defenses. Israel's operations. Typo. Career over. Have therefore targeted air defenses and ballistic missile sites to forestall this. Ah, yes, the classic preemptive strike. If Iran believes the US or others were involved, then their retaliation could include targeting the US Navy's Fifth Fleet. Iran will not do this. Whatever Iran does, it is not going to be this, because it wasn't American fighter jets that flew over Iran and bombed their cities. It was Israeli fighter jets. What America is doing here is they're projecting a degree of insanity onto Iran that only exists in the United States and Israel. They're projecting a degree of irrationality that they cannot comprehend other countries not suffering from, because the United States and Israel have like a unique degree of political irrationality on the world stage, precisely because of the unchecked power that they've like had for a decent amount of time. It's like, this is just my sources that I made it the fuck up, right? Says nuclear clash not close. Well, yeah, it seems that the top NATO officials and analysts agree, like, yeah, this probably isn't going to lead to nuclear war. Risk of an escalating regional conflict. You don't fucking say. Six months later, wait a sec. It's April of last year. Iran launched missiles and drones on Israel. Retaliating strikes on Iranian sites. I don't believe CBS. I don't remember this very well, but I actually don't believe this. I think they're actually lying. I think Israel struck first in this case as well. Either way, the point being established is that this is not the first time that a back and forth like this has happened. Damn. The response could extend beyond retaliatory strikes on Israel itself. Citation needed. Well, I guess beyond Israel itself is a less outlandish claim to make. Saying that it would be direct strikes on like U.S. military assets is much more out there. Okay, this is another thing that I hate. These talks were never serious to begin with. Like there was no chance of these talks ever going anywhere because we already had these talks when Obama was president, and it resulted in the Iran nuclear deal, which Trump unilaterally rescinded and said "fuck you, Iran," and now they're like crawling back. This ain't happening. uh 5 minutes ago, another volley of Iranian missiles launched. Wait, was this Russian retaliation? Something, something. Okay. More finger wagging, I guess. I don't know, dude. Look, I don't even know what, like, general point I make from this, other than, like, this is representative of the decay of the international order, like the international liberal world order or whatever, because the self-proclaimed steward of that order, the United States, has gone completely Joker mode in every, like, at every step that Israel has also gone completely Joker mode, resulting in the United States and especially Israel now acting as a pair of rogue states that answer to nobody and have basically cut themselves off from the international community, doing shit like this that risks World War III. And it is a real risk. However, however small the risk is, which I certainly hope this doesn't escalate, and I don't think it will. The risk is there, and this kind of brinksmanship is just like complete. I guess I said as much earlier. This kind of brinksmanship is completely irrational and motivated by like a number of things, all equally irrational, from like mass psychological fascism to top-down governmental fascism to pure political, like callous political self-interest on the part of Netanyahu to stay in power, and like the military-industrial complex in the United States wanting to maintain its relationship with Israel basically at any cost because that's like where all their money comes from and goes. It like that's the justification that the Pentagon can use to increase their budget over and over again. They funnel money into this black hole, and it's like, well, what do we do now that the defense contractors have all this money? What do we do with it? We spend it on Israel. We antagonize countries in the region so that they hate Israel. That way we have more money. We have more justification to ask for more money to spend on Israel. It's an infinite loop. I don't know what else I'd say other than that. Oh yeah, also Israelis and like Israel is like super duper Hitlerite. Uh, literally just fucking final solution shit right here. And this also plays into why they're doing it, as I mentioned earlier, is that they hate this hatred isn't just limited to Palestinians. It extends to all Arabs and to a significant degree as well, all Muslims. They really fucking hate Iran and Iranians as well. It wouldn't surprise me if the Israeli public were on board with this. In fact, that's part of the reason that Netanyahu is doing it, is because he can keep that public support up. Something permanent state of crisis, something fascism. You know the deal. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Future me, if that's a segment, cut it already. Jesus fucking Christ. This is gonna be outdated. Even with like minimal editing, this video is gonna be outdated by the time I upload it. So take this for what you will. Yeah, there are many negative things I want to say about Israel, but I've basically exhausted everything that I can say that won't get me like banned from Twitch and YouTube. So I'll see you guys later. Not on stream, just for YouTube. I'm still here streaming for like another hour, but that was the YouTube segment. Christ. That was such a fucking like insane thing to start on. I guess I mean like I didn't want to bury the lead by talking about some other shit, right? was about to say time didn't go that fast, did it? Yeah, I mean, I spent like an hour talking about that. I mean, so much shit is happening, dude. It's so much. So much shit is happening. And I like, and I genuinely, I felt like I wanted to just like, okay, I'm gonna have to just do the just chilling category or just chatting category to be able to talk about this shit at length because like, holy fuck, I'm not confident in my ability to analyze a rapidly developing like military escalation and then edit it afterwards while I'm playing Mario Kart. The freakiest thing about all of this is Friday the 13th. Son of a bitch, you're right. It is Friday, June 13th right now. Fucking... Maybe they were cooking when they said that, like, Friday the 13th is unlucky... Fucking unlucky day. Goddamn. Oh, this actually just crossed my mind. No, wait, I already talked about this. Fucking Jesus. I was gonna mention that I was looking for, like, research on labor vouchers. You know, this is a socialist channel. Shocker. Guy who has Bolshevik in his name is a socialist. Nobody can believe this. I wanted to look for some articles on labor vouchers because it's a type of non-monetary economy, but as I mentioned, I think last stream, I couldn't find very much, which is unfortunate. You know, I guess it's kind of hard to find something about a very different kind of economic management that isn't like market capitalism or anything as it contrasts to market capitalism. Like even a lot of literature on socialist economics and Marxist economics exists in the context of modern day market capitalism, where you put it in relief, like you contrast it to systems that already exist. Whereas money actually transcends beyond market capitalism and it has had roles in non-market, non-capitalist societies. Like money is a much older institution than capitalism is. And I guess for that reason, it's kind of a lot harder to write research about it because, you know, the research process, the process by which we have like studies and literature reviews and data collection in the sense that we're now familiar with is very much a modern phenomenon existing from like basically from the late 19th century up until now is how long that has notably existed. So I don't know. I guess I should have expected that, but yeah, I mentioned that last stream I think as well. I couldn't find very much on labor vouchers, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. And maybe I'll be able to find something about non-monetary economics if I look for the right thing. I'm really not sure. Eh. I'm gonna look at something else now. Oh yeah. I wanted to save this for when 1v3 was here because we love when the Dutch government does some goofy shit, and the Dutch government has done goofy shit. By which I mean it collapsed. Again. Why did the Dutch government collapse? It collapsed because of the far right. There you go. I've saved you like 4 pages of analysis. Seriously, they do this every fucking time. And this also means that like the other segment that I was talking about, that I was doing before the my like vacation, I now can't do because it's like wildly out of date because the government didn't collapse yet. So we're gonna kind of do a rehash of that. Why did the Dutch government collapse and what's next? Half our governments in history collapse. Certified Netherlands moment. Dutch government collapsed after Geert Wilders pulled away from ruling right-wing coalition. Well, that's interesting. The Dutch government collapsed on Tuesday after the far-right politician Geert Wilders pulled out of the right-wing coalition after a dispute over anti-immigration measures his party had proposed. They were all having like a internal competition over who could virtue signal or vice signal harder about being like anti-immigrant and anti-immigration and shit. Like they really, really wanted that remigration bag or some shit. And there was like a minister in his cabinet that they were like, come on, what are you doing? What's the holdup? And then like they may or may not have been, I don't know, incompetent at what they were doing or something like that. Regardless, I think it was actually like kind of inevitable that when you have four far right parties in a coalition, it's gonna collapse. You know? Because the far right all hates each other. It's not like they like anything or anyone, you know? Wilder's decision prompted the Dutch cabinet and Prime Minister Dick Schoof, bro. And we think America isn't a real country. Damn, what a name to resign. Why did Wilders withdraw? Wilders announced that the withdrawal of his party, the PVV, you know, right wing party, certified, from the 11-month old right wing Netherlands coalition government. Wilders said the other three parties in the coalition had failed to back his plans to crack down on asylum for refugees. See, this is what I mean. They were all competing about who can hate asylum seekers more, you know? No signature under our asylum plans. The PVV leaves the coalition. Okay, bye. Have a great time. The other three parties were the VVD, the BBB, and the NSC, all right-wing parties. And they were like, you guys aren't anti-immigrant enough. I'm taking the dodgeball and going home. And the dodgeball was the government, except, like, they actually just collapsed the government. Wait, so I was wrong. Geert Wilders is not the prime minister. Dick Schoof is the prime minister. Jesus fucking Christ, that name. He's just the leader of the party? I don't know. I don't know how this works, truthfully. I kind of assumed that the leader of a given party in the ruling coalition would be the prime minister. So like the biggest party in the majority coalition or the ruling coalition, their leader was the prime minister. But like, oh, he should have been. Okay. So like there was some extenuating circumstance. Got it. That makes sense. May 26, Wilders announced a 10-point plan to extensively slash migration, deploying army officials at the Dutch land borders and rejecting all asylum seekers. Dude, they're taking so much of this shit just from like what America does. Like, here's the thing, right? A lot of countries in Europe were doing this in the 2010s, right? You know, during the Syrian refugee crisis, you know, a lot of anti-immigration sentiment was on the rise. Here's the thing: the United States was doing this shit in the 1990s. Like, we exported this kind of model of categorically turning people away. You know, I guess it's just one of the ways that America is like a cultural exporter of fascism, right? I know this is a deep cut, but there was you know, there's perennial political instability in Haiti, but of course in the 90s this also applies. I think during the first Bush administration, this would be Bush Senior, or I guess it'd be the only Bush Senior administration, which was a Republican government. There was like a coup or something in Haiti. The government got toppled or something like that. I think it was like the Duvalier father and son who were dictators back to back. Anyways, a lot of refugees were coming over, Haitian refugees, and it was actually quite a controversy that a lot of immigration police, like immigration officers, whatever, were shooting the Haitian migrants as they were approaching the U.S. And the, you know, Fox News at the time was trying to justify their actions and like dehumanize immigrants by calling them boat people, and stuff like that. Because, you know, obviously Haiti, you'd have to come to the United States by boat. You know, and that was a whole thing. They were being turned away. I think it might have only been a couple instances where they were shooting them or shooting at them. You know, a lot of them didn't make it. But regardless, there's the same pattern of like, yeah, we hate immigrants so much that we'll literally deploy the military and threaten to kill you if you try to come into the country. He wasn't going to get a government if he was going to be president. So he had to step down and let someone else get that role. Oh, okay. I see. All right. That makes sense. The four parties cumulatively held 88 seats in the country's 150-seat House of Representatives. Oh, I was actually going to pull that up on Wikipedia, but yeah, okay. They just explain it here. PVV won the latest November 2023 election with 23% of the vote, 37 seats, the highest number of seats in the parliament out of all parties, so they were the plurality. Majority rank in the House is 76 seats. The withdrawal leaves the coalition with only 51. When did Truth step down? I think we kind of know that, right? Yeah, it's the withdrawal, emergency cabinet meeting, and then Truth steps down. How did other Dutch leaders react? I'm not so interested in that part. What's next? Formally submit his resignation to the head of state, Dutch King Willem-Alexander. This guy doesn't have very much power in the Dutch government, as far as I know. Most of it happens in the parliament with, like, the prime minister and shit. Three remaining parties can't decide on who's going to bring a new minister of asylum for the remaining time until October, when there are new elections. They all wanted to show they're able to handle immigration so that they get all the votes in the next election. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Fucking stoke that far right infighting. That gives me life, dude. That's great. As of May 31, polls show that Wilder's PV has lost a little of its support, from 23 down to 20%. I'd say that's kind of significant, especially if that, like, you check back and they continue to lose support. I mean, obviously, I guess that's tautological, right? This brings the party almost at par with the Green Left Labour Alliance, which has 19% and 25 seats. Okay. Fragmented party of politics in the Netherlands makes it difficult to predict which party will win the election. I'm going to actually make some predictions here. Okay, that's kind of the end. The polls say the PVV is the biggest party, apparently because people feel like this is the moment for him to get a second shot, even though 0 parties want to govern with him anymore. Yeah, and I think that actually plays into my predictions. I'm going to copy and paste a couple of Wikipedia articles on the composition of the Dutch parliament so we can take a look at the parties that are here, and so that I can kind of talk about what I think should happen and is going to happen, because those are two different things. So let's start with the House of Representatives. As that article said, there's 150 seats. That's a lot of colors. Very fragmented parliament, as you know, as we know. We have the parties down here. Okay, yeah. So here we have the PVV. We have GroenLinks PVDA, the Green Left Labour Alliance. This is the VVD, okay, and then the NSC. These are 3 of the 4 right-wing parties, and then where's the other one? That would be Forum for Democracy? No, that's FVD. Where's the 4th one? Oh, it was the BBB, of course. Well, how did I forget this? Yeah, there's the BBB right there. Okay. So we got this one, this one right here, this one right here, this one right here, and then this one up here. That was the coalition, but now they're gone, so it's just those 3, and they don't have enough seats, right? The other parties in the Dutch parliament, God, it's kind of fragmented. FED is the most extreme one, Next Level Conspiracy Guy. Yeah, and they don't really have enough seats for that, but they do figure into my predictions of what might happen, right? This is the House of Representatives. Now let's take a look at the Senate real quick, since, you know, bicameral legislature. Opposition, 51, government, 24. What's the majority here? Let's see, 75, so it would be 38. You'd have to have 38 seats in the Senate to make a 75, or not 75, 38 out of 75 seat majority. And it looks like nobody has like an opposition, like majority coalition in the Senate, right? So, again, more credence to the claim that politics is very fragmented in the Netherlands. You have, let's see, BBB, and these guys, and then you have these guys, and where's the other one that I'm thinking of? Freedom. Do they not? Maybe they don't have a presence in the Senate. Maybe that'd be kind of crazy. 1, 2. Yeah, there's no new social contract here. Weird. Okay. What should happen? Or rather, first things first. This is the song and dance that the Netherlands has been going through the past 5 or 6 years. I remember, I think it was like in 2019, the BBB was making waves. That was the first sort of far right populist party that at least that I heard about, right? Me as an American learning about Dutch politics from the outside. Then over the course of like the 2020s, we have like 5 separate government collapses or something like that, all of which being the far right coalitions because they hate each other's guts and they can't stop infighting, right? But here's the thing, right? They haven't done nothing. As much as the far right is incompetent, there have been a couple of things that they've gotten past with respect to, I don't know, like austerity and like limiting migration, right? And the development of data centers. I think I actually covered that because I fucking hate that they're developing data centers for like AI or whatever the fuck, right? There have been some limited bad things that they've been able to do, which means that there's only so long that the country can withstand this until like the decline starts being more evident. It's just in an earlier stage of it where there's more cushioning when the far right party takes power, right? You're still on the stage where you can have a fascist party getting elected to government and that doesn't make it a fascist government. Does that make sense? Where in the United States, the situation was already unsteady and weak enough that a fascist party getting elected to government made it a fascist government, right? Here, it is still a very liberal government. It's like a liberal democracy. It's a social democracy, left over from the 20th century, just being run by incompetent fascists. They don't have the kind of institutional capture that's necessary to get that kind of control where they could just fuck everything up, right? The consent just isn't manufactured for that. But over time, they are going to make progress, little by little. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the rest of these parties, a lot of them are liberals. There's not very many left parties. Denk, the Socialists, GroenLinks, PVDA, Party for the Animals, and a couple of these are like bit players, right? They're not very large parties. The rest of these would be other right-wing parties or like liberals, but I kind of repeat myself there, right? You got Volt, J21, you got the, crazy conspiracy guys, you got, Christian Democrats, social liberals, which I guess, maybe they could be considered on the left, right? But common to all of these, with the exception of a couple of the far right parties, is that they're all institutionalists. So if nothing changes, what I see happening is this kind of evolves into a painful, slow decline, right? Because there isn't really an out from that. You just go around in circles and whatever. And sure, for the next few cycles, it could be very entertaining to, get your popcorn and watch the far right shit themselves and the government collapse over and over again, which, would be funny. But it gets a little bit worse each time when there's not a significant rebuttal to that from the left, other than, haha, look at these guys go, look how dumb they are, right? You need something more. The current left parties are kind of institutionalists, and that leads to them being pretty ineffective in the face of rising populism, which means that when there is a populist party, even if they are as incompetent and boorish and like destructive and, self-hating as the far right, those guys are going to win over the institutional options. As much as, this is the Socialist Party, many socialist parties in Europe have kind of moderated over time. What there needs to be is a populist left option. We've seen this, shades of this in Germany, in France. The moment you introduce a populist left party, people will start flocking to it in droves, especially if they have any sort of social media acumen, if they have any ability to like post on TikTok, basically. If you get a bunch of fucking TikTok and Instagram e-boy and e-girl socialists up there, you like they'd never lose another election for 50 years, right? Like and basically crisis averted, problem solved, right? Because they would be very critical of the kind of politics that leads to the far right parties getting into government and collapsing the government over and over again, chipping away a little bit with them each time, We had this in the United States and failed. We sort of had this cycle going back and forth where it would be the status quo for a while, like nothing substantial would really happen. And, even though there were some advances made, both parties were similar enough ideologically for a decent amount of time, but things got too chipped away. Eventually, the fascists did win. You know, from the 1960s, that was like the last time these major gains were made. You know, through the energy crisis of the 70s up into the neoliberalism, the 80s and 90s and 2000s, it was just a slow decline where the Democrats and the Republicans were both institutionalists. And the moment populism was introduced, it took off. But by that point, it was already kind of too late to save American democracy. Here, it is not too late. And I say that with like what limited knowledge I have of European social democracies. Like I said, you get some e-boy, e-girl socialists that are saying like, you know, fuck capitalism. Socialism is my autistic special interest. And they're as charismatic as like a fucking Fidel Castro or somebody. I don't know. And there's a very real chance to reverse a lot of this, to fix a lot of the like austerity politics and anti-immigration politics that basically creates the modern crisis, you know? Especially because a lot of the modern crisis revolves around the relationship between these political parties and businesses and capital in the country. You know, the moderating forces of social democracy include a sort of push down from above of like, you know, the farming industry and whatever industries are very dominant in the country, because those industries are privately owned and they want their tax breaks. They want their big profits and revenues and stuff. But in order to do that, they have to kind of pull stuff up from the bottom. They have to, you know, make a profit, which means somebody's not benefiting as much as they are, or they're extracting from somewhere, right? And that can only go on for so long. And we're now starting to run up against the limit that you can do with that, if that makes sense. You know, think of the all the negative consequences that deregulation and stuff have had in the United States. The same forces are present in Europe. It'll take a while before we'll get a leftist government. People out here are way too focused on getting the immigrants out of here. Yeah, and I think for that reason, it's going to take time, right? You know, these things, it's kind of hard to just wish them into existence, right? You know, like Germany and France only recently experienced this phenomenon. The far-right populism has already surfaced. It is going to be a while before the left-wing populism surfaces. The one saving grace for the Netherlands, like I said, is that there's some time left. Like, you know, there's still a bit of cushioning. It's not like the ground isn't super ripe for the fascist takeover, a comprehensive fascist takeover yet. But yeah, a lot of, you know, like I said, this is kind of why, if there's a left populist option, they have to be very active on social media. The attitudes of being very anti-immigration, many institutionalist parties are not as familiar with the media landscape as a tool of messaging. You know, like especially with social media, they tend to view people's opinions as more set in stone, especially as you get closer and closer to like the consultant class. Particularly, this is a critique that I and many other people have of the Democrats in America, is that they're not really willing to manufacture the consent for their political agenda, something that like has constantly existed in politics. You have to like argue for people to support your stuff, right? You have to like make impassioned appeals over and over and over again. And over time, that can make a difference. So people are very anti-immigration right now, but with time and a really good social media presence, that can change. We've seen this in the opposite direction. People in America have gotten more anti-immigration over time because of the lack of a pro-immigration narrative. But when there was a pro-immigration narrative, people were very pro-immigration in America. Same thing with queer rights. Queer rights used to actually, in the like mid 2000s to 2010s, people were more pro-gay, like in the immediate aftermath, of certain court decisions, like Obergefell, shout outs to the Americans that know what I'm talking about, that legalized gay marriage. The acceptance of queer people went up. Because the coverage of it was like, huzzah, gay people are allowed to get married now. Great, we have equal rights. And that's good, right? And that, you know, there was news coverage, there was media messaging to that effect. And that actually changed people's minds. It convinced people that it was okay to be accepting of queer people. And it convinced people who were anti-queer to be a lot quieter with their views. And that actually changes the landscape over time. And now, because there's been a ramp up of anti-queer sentiment in the media, the trend has reversed. Now people are becoming more anti-queer. The queer acceptance is declining steadily. And I need to stress that this change is possible to be induced from the top down. Opinions can be manufactured in this way. This is how the right wing has had its success. Even though there are some organic pressures that prevent the decline from happening all at once, it operates in both directions, that if you say something loud enough, frequently enough, people will believe it. And it helps when it's true and when it's good and when you say it charismatically. You know, the right wing doesn't have the advantage of it being correct or like good, but they do have the advantage of being charismatic in some cases and being willing to say it over and over and over again. You know, so that's not set in stone. That's just like forgive me for sounding like a college professor, lecturing students or whatever the fuck, right? But like, there is a road out of the sort of far right ascendancy, and it lies in like, I can't believe I'm saying this. It lies in like TikTok and Twitter leftists being able to organize a political party and like engage with their communities in real life as well. For sure, a good idea. Sadly, the leader of the leftist party isn't very popular either. Yeah, and that's what I got at earlier. Even though it is very cool that the GL PVDA like coalition exists, there's still the flaw that they are legacy parties. These are parties that have been around for quite a while. They are very institutionally ingrained and not the most fertile ground for populism. Now, it's not unheard of for parties like this to turn into left populist parties. We've seen this in France, where various existing parties have organized and reorganized into new coalitions, now being the Nouveau Front Populaire, the New Popular Front, and they have a populist message that is very popular. But yeah, right now, this is why a lot of left parties in Europe, nominally left parties, are not super well liked, is because they are kind of they've moderated a lot. They've become more ingrained institutionally, and people see them as representative of the political establishment, right? Very nebulous concept, but generally it's like, my life hasn't gotten a whole lot better, and these guys have been in charge for a significant part of that, even if it's only for a few years or whatever. They were already a part of the government. Why haven't they been doing anything? You kind of have to change that dynamic. Although, like I said, it's not unheard of for parties like this to become populist, but it is also an option for like a new party to arise, because some of these parties are quite small. It takes organizing, it takes time, it takes somebody being willing to like go on Instagram and TikTok and post repeatedly about like how leftism is cool actually, and how the farm industry is getting so many subsidies, they're taking so much profit here, and we all need food, so why don't we just like collectivize this? Why don't we nationalize it and have it be in the form of cooperatives? Why can't we like force them to include workers on the boards, on like the what is it, the board of executives, board of directors, that's what it is, and stuff like that. Stuff that makes capital mad. This is one of the things that prevents institutional parties from being able to do a whole lot, is that like, in order to be effective at being populist, you have to challenge power. You have to challenge institutional power. You have to challenge capital. You have to basically make businesses mad at you and make all the like rich farmers whine about it. And a lot of institutional parties rely on their connections to, well, existing institutions. And that includes the big rich farmers that will whine at you if you're mean to them. So we got to get some people in there that are willing to be mean to them. Anyways, leftist meme, that is the current state of the Netherlands. In the meantime, enjoy your popcorn and post on TikTok about how, fuck the farming industry actually, because they suck and all these data centers suck, or something like that. Cut the segment. All right. Party leaders arguing with the VVD leader. The PVV, like the or different party. Might start looking for. That'll probably help him. Like the you mean the Green Left Labor Party leader, or oh, the party leaders arguing with the VVD leader. That'll probably help him. Which other party? Do you mean the PVV, or a different party is arguing with the VVD? Like, is it two parties that are mad at each other, or is it just inside the VVD that people are like infighting? Green with VVD leader. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that potentially gives them an opportunity, I guess. Be like, wow, look how fucking incompetent these guys are. But again, there's kind of a flaw in that. I don't know. It could that could be an opportunity. We'll see. It could be good. Could be like not much. What else did I want to look at? I don't know. I thought that was like kind of like the Netherlands in some cases prevents a rare, like, somewhat comfortable way to look at politics, because it's like, man, there are some countries that are not actively dancing with a full fascist takeover, and it's not very many of them, but I feel like the Netherlands is one of them. And it really feels like that, almost like the time traveler scenario. Like, guys, you got to do something before it's too late or something. I don't know. I don't know. If they hammer on this government sucks, they might have a decent shot. Yeah, that's true. I think this presents an opportunity to pivot from just that line of rhetoric to also including, like, this government sucks because they're all infighting, and because they're trying to, like, make you look at the immigrants while they give massive subsidies to the farmers and stuff like that, right? It's a chance to sort of redirect the conversation, which is really useful in moments like these, because, like, the anti-immigrant sentiment is very frequently, it does have organic and inorganic factors boosting it, but the anti-immigration sentiment usually exists either to the benefit of the far right or to the far right and businesses. Usually to the benefit of the far right and businesses, because if immigrants are forced to live more on the margins, then it's easier to, like, pay them less. In fact, we're seeing that directly in the United States, where Trump has said, like, oh, whoa, hold on, we don't want to, like, kick all the immigrants out. Who's going to work our farms otherwise? You know, it's really funny to see Trump, like, change his tune so drastically. But first and foremost, he's in the pocket of business interests because he's a businessman. And even with, you know, the seeming populist far right types, they're either insane, in which case they want to literally just kill them, or they're also in the pocket of the business interests, like the BBB. You know, uh, yeah. So like, if you're the BBB or another such party that is, like, populist but insincerely as a vehicle of, like, I don't know, the agribusiness industry, you know, like, they're gonna say, grr, we need to crack down on immigration just so they can have less rights, not to remove them entirely, but so we can have them as cheap labor. Who else is gonna clean our windows or farm cucumber? That's true. And we love cucumber. Everybody loves cucumber. We must have cucumber. Uh, So yeah, and I think that's, like, an opportunity to be like, hey, they're trying to cheat immigrants because they also want to cheat you out of, like, your tax money and stuff like that. Because that's what businesses do here, right? Like, oh yeah, immigrants are taking our jobs, so we're gonna crack down on them. They manufacture the consent. Nobody's gonna be seeing those jobs anyways, except for the immigrants still, and them living more and more on the margins just means, like, yeah, we can basically treat you like slave labor or indentured labor, or whatever sort of adjacent term we want to use there. You know? Uh, but Anyways, I talked about some bad news. I talked about some interesting news. Now let's talk about, if you can believe it, good news. Zoran Mamdani is now ahead of Andrew Cuomo in the New York City mayor's race. Anybody outside of America might not know who the fuck this guy is. He's a socialist, actual by name socialist, running for mayor in New York City. It's one of the first times that there hasn't been a whole like Red Scare campaign, not a successful one anyway, smearing somebody for being a socialist. Many, even in a hostile media environment, most of the hostile questions directed against this guy have been about his position on Israel. But they only make very casual mention of, oh yeah, you know, you're a democratic socialist, in the kind of tone that suggests that, oh yeah, that's kind of unusual, isn't it? How about that, right? Nobody knew who this guy was like 6 months ago, or like even 3 or 4 months ago, and now he was he is currently a councilman, city councilman. He's running for mayor against Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of the whole state of New York, and he's winning. Zoran Mamdani, the young Democratic socialist who's been rising in the mayor's race, is now ahead of Andrew Cuomo with just 2 weeks until the Democratic primary, a new poll reviewed in full by Politico found. Also, since this is Politico, this is American news, they fucking hate this guy, by the way. Be aware, all the news in America fucking hates this guy. Because he is like pro-Palestine, and also he's a socialist and isn't like in the pocket of the military-industrial complex. The tone for that is particularly strong in New York because that's where a lot of the Democratic Party is based out of. A lot of Democratic candidates, even from other states, either have connections in or are from New York. I shit you not when I say that the guy who was governor of my state and ran for the governor of my state in 2021, I think he was the governor from 2014 to 18, and then ran again in 2021, wasn't from Virginia. He was from New York, and like just kind of haphazardly registered a house in Virginia so he could run for governor here. Nobody likes these people. It's like the American version of old money and like Wall Streeters, basically. That's who's running the Democratic Party right now, and they're all like connected up in New York. And that's why this is getting so much attention. Because this is like the Democratic Party being upset at its source. The survey, this is the one that puts Ron Mamdani ahead, conducted by Public Policy Polling for Democrat Justin Brannon's city comptroller campaign, found Mamdani beating Cuomo 35% to 31%, a difference that is narrowly within the 4.1% margin of error, which means that however you slice it, they are neck and neck. Gotta go, I'm afraid. Have a good one. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. If or whenever you show up again. Well, you know, whatever. You know, any way you slice it, Zoran Mamdani is likely to be ahead. And his campaign largely consists of a couple of things. It consists of freezing the rent. There's a perennial rent and mortgage crisis in the United States. Housing costs have gone up and up and up and up, and they have never come down, and wages have never risen substantially to compensate for that. So people can't afford rent. That's his number one promise. He's making public transit free at the point of use. Public transit, as the name suggests, is public. It is funded by tax money. And the fares aren't super expensive, but a few bucks each time you ride the bus or ride the train does add up over time, and people notice that. So he's proposed to make that free, and I saw some clips from the debate that happened just last night, and he's so good at this. He preempted the questions of how would he pay for that by saying, and I will tax rich people to pay for it. I will increase the taxes on like corporations and the wealthiest people in the state, so that we can pay for free public transit for everybody, making the city more affordable and just better. And on top of that, he's proposing building more affordable housing units, which is based. Like, this guy has yet to propose something that I disagree with. which may mean that I need to see a psychiatrist, because he cited a line from another New York politician that if you agree with me on 9 out of 12 issues, vote for me. If you agree on 12 out of 12 issues with me, you should see a psychiatrist. Which is funny. And probably true. Cuomo has been the constant frontrunner since his March 1st entrance into the race to oust Mayor Eric Adams, with most publicly released polls showing him with comfortable leads. This new survey, which did not include a ranked choice voting simulation, stands to signal a reordering of the highly unusual contest ahead of the June 24th election. Did not include a ranked choice voting simulation. I guess that's significant to include. I don't know what the implications of it are, though. Poll of 573 likely Democratic voters was conducted between June 6th and the 7th, after 9 candidates faced off in the first televised debate. The following day, June 5th, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez endorsed Mamdani, lending political star power to his campaign. This was huge, by the way. Also, it is worth mentioning, for any political scientists, they might have cringed when they saw a sample size of only 573. But look, I'm at a point right now that I will take a bad poll over a fake poll. Polling is the devil and is not to be trusted, but I'll take a 573 sample size of real people over a 2,000 or 3,000 sample size of people that they made up using an AI chatbot, right? Because there are a number of polls that do that. 39% of the poll's responses came from landlines and 61% from text messages. Oh, yeah. A methodology that favored Mamdani, given his strength with those responding via text, according to the results. Very, very fucking nice for them to put this in there, saying oh, yeah, this is a Mamdani biased poll. Was installing my new filter into my fish tank. Been listening in the background. Oh, cool. I hope that fish is living quite comfortably. This is this paragraph right here is a load of bullshit, because even 39% landline responses is way overcounting the proportion of people that use landlines. If anything, this methodology using 39% landline phones and 61% text messages is heavily skewed in favor of Cuomo, because I've mentioned this before, the people that mostly pick up the phone on a landline when somebody calls them are older people. And older people lean more towards Andrew Cuomo because of the bias towards people they know, name recognition, etc., etc. But everybody uses text. It used to be the case that it was mostly young people that use text, but now even grandma and grandpa can text using their phones. So anybody can and sometimes will respond to a text bank or a text-based, a political poll or survey, should they choose to respond at all. There's some people that just don't feel like it, So this is just false, not even remotely true. They're just lying here. This poll actually slightly favors Andrew Cuomo, and even with that and a 4% margin of error, which makes my stomach turn as somebody who's political science literate, Mamdani is still ahead by 4%, which is almost exactly the margin of error. He might actually win the mayor's race of the largest city in the United States. Survey showed the race continuing to narrow to a two-person contest between the youngest and oldest candidates in the field, but didn't offer respondents the chance to rank up to 5 candidates in order of preference, as they will be able to do on primary day. Yes, you have mentioned this already. Okay. Cuomo poll. Okay, yeah, this is the older poll that showed Cuomo leading Mamdani by 56 to 44. Conducted over the same period. Wait, this is just a repeat of an older poll, but they did it again? Okay. Data for progress from a Mamdani allied super PAC. I do appreciate that Politico is saying, oh, wow, here's an interesting poll showing that this guy is ahead. But don't worry, he's not actually going to win. You guys aren't actually going to get like a rent freeze or free buses or a city-owned grocery store. Don't be fucking insane. No, you're going to get establishment deep state slop for fucking 4 more years and like increased police spending and more enshittification of everything in the city. Don't be ridiculous. You can't have anything good. This is America. Oh, great. They interviewed a Cuomo spokesperson. It's telling that the only polls showing this trend line are paid for by Zoran Mamdani Inc. What the fuck? I didn't expect them to be that, like, insane with it. Referring to Mamdani's choice, cut a fundraising video for Brannon, though that video came after Brannon's team commissioned this poll. Wait, so then, again, this is Politico just lying here. Oh, yeah, clearly this is, Mamdani's choice to do some video editing, I guess, for this other guy played into this, even though this happened after the poll happened. As you know, we've had a poll in the field at the same time. Our poll showed us a race with thus maintaining was now been a consistent double-digit lead for more than 3 months, which is rare for NYC mayoral race in recent memory. They're trying to build up their lead as more than it was, but remember that, like, it was the case that Cuomo was like 60-something to 10, like 2 months ago, against Zoran Mamdani, and now the gap is closed, and they're saying, oh yeah, this guy has no chance. Look, even the way that they're phrasing Mamdani and his campaign's reaction to this, Mamdani's campaign or Mamdani's camp took a victory lap. When you run a disciplined grassroots campaign, relentlessly focus on an agenda to address the crises of working people's lives, these are the results. History by, welcome back. Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Month to you as well. I'm currently covering that Zoran Mamdani is actually about to win in New York. That would be like a fucking birthday present to everybody in America. That would be like best Pride Month if that was the case. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Mamdani's spokesperson Andrew Epstein said, New York City is so close to turning the page on the corrupt politics of the past and winning a future we can afford. I know I could be being conspiratorial, but I guarantee they specifically like looked for the guy who had the name like Epstein and asked him the question instead of anybody else. Like, I know that was going through their heads because fucking the people who run the Democratic Party that, like I said, is like based in New York for the most part, fucking hate anybody that wants to change anything at an institutional level. They hate you, they hate me, they hate Zoran Mamdani, they hate everything. And if you call them on it, they will literally cry about it. The poll found the remaining candidates, some of whom have been running for far longer, nowhere near the two frontrunners. So it's clear that the race is going to come down to these two. Oh boy. I remember seeing this paragraph somewhere else. Actually, these two paragraphs. Support for Mamdani was strongest among white and Asian voters, but 27% of black voters surveyed support him, as did nearly 1/3 of Hispanic voters, an indication he's gaining multiracial support among New Yorkers. Cuomo's lead with black voters remains particularly durable at 42%. Damn, only 42% of black voters support Andrew Cuomo, and Politico's like, oh yeah, that's durable, you know? Meanwhile, no mention of like how many. Interesting that they chose to not include how many like voters from the like white American, Asian American bloc support Mamdani, but they did specify the support for Cuomo. This is not like, I mean, the inclusion of the word durable, like the narrative framing device, is kind of egregious, but otherwise this is like less egregious than than I think what I'm about to get to, and certainly some stuff that I saw earlier. Mamdani, a member of the state assembly. Oh, he's a state assemblyman, not a councilman. That's my beat. More lefty misinfo. Sorry, guys. has leveraged social media to gain attention in the crowded race, employing slickly produced videos highlighting his platform, like free bus service or government-run grocery stores. Government-run grocery stores. Jesus fucking Christ, these people hate him so much. Slickly produced. They're literally trying to make this guy everything bad all at once. They're trying to say, like, yeah, he's a car salesman, he's a terrorist. I don't know if you guys saw that, like, horrendously edited photo. Here, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Where was it? Take aim at Mamdani. Yeah. They're not gonna have that. Um, they Cuomo campaign put out an attack ad, like pamphlet against Mamdani, and they fucking did the most racist photo edit I've ever seen. Here, hold on. Zoran Mamdani? He'd probably have it on his page, although he is pretty active on social media. I'm following this fucking guy. He's cool. Yeah, wait, here it is. Here it is. Straight from the source. Look at this. Andrew Cuomo's afraid he'll lose, so his donors want you to fear me. His super PAC just sent out a mailer that artificially lengthened and darkened my beard. This is blatant Islamophobia, the kind of racism that explains why MAGA billionaires support his campaign. Oh yeah, no mention of that from Politico either. The campaign of Andrew Cuomo for New York City mayor is being supported by billionaires, the likes of whom contributed massive amounts of money to Trump's campaign, and some of whom were present at the inauguration. Those people are very invested in seeing Zoran Mamdani lose this mayor's race, and as a result, I am all the more invested in seeing him win it. Here's the original photo, and then, like, yeah, you can see there's some filmic grain, or, like, paper grain applied to the photo. It's not just his beard. They darkened his hair, too. Darkened his hair. They increased the contrast. This is not as high contrast as this. They've brightened it up in these parts so that you can see the... Yeah, and like all the hair on his face is darker. They gave him more beard. Look. So they darkened his beard here. But then look at this side of his beard. He doesn't have this like tiny thing of beard sticking out there. They added that. God, that's funny. If you guys remember, some of you might not be old enough to remember, but the Republicans and Democrats actually did this to Barack Obama in 2008. Hillary Clinton and John McCain both in their attack ads. Actually, no, John McCain actually might have been more classy than this, which is hilarious to think about. Hillary Clinton, another New York Democrat, actually edited... had her campaign team edit photos of Barack Obama to make his skin appear darker, to make him appear blacker. And of course, they also did some of these same tricks when they found like one photo of him like wearing a turban. So yeah, this is the kind of shit that like this is the most that they can leverage against Zoran Mamdani, right? Like, he doesn't even support Israel. Look how Muslim he looks, and that sort of shit. And then these guys are saying like, oh yeah, he's a terrorist, he's Muslim, he's a fucking car salesman, I guess. I don't know. They're literally trying to make an attack out of the fact that he's run a very savvy and effective campaign and advocated for things like city-owned grocery stores and free bus service. I guess there's not really a way that they can make free bus service sound like something that would destroy the city, so they have to say free bus service. Although I do notice as well, they have discluded any mention of him saying he wants to do rent freezes, and they have added his voters don't seem to mind that he hasn't articulated a robust, realistic plan to pay for these programs, despite the fact that he has done this like repeatedly. They'll just lie about you. They fucking hate you. These people hate you more than anything. They hate like the possibility of anything good happening if it means that like their donor daddies get upset, or if they're the donor daddies themselves that, you know, makes them upset. And good things make these people pretty fucking upset. What was once a long-shot candidacy by the 33-year-old candidate has evolved into a competitive effort to lead the nation's largest city. He's only 33. God damn. Cuomo has sharpened his attacks against Mamdani in recent days by being racist. By questioning his thin resume and ability to lead a complex city government. Thin resume. Give me a fucking break. As if. Look, even, like, notwithstanding the fact that this is obviously also a lie, this is still better than the resume that Andrew Cuomo has, right? Because Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York City during the coronavirus pandemic. And under his administration in New York, we saw massive corruption and cuts to Medicaid and the sort of ignorance and then a subsequent cover-up of mass, like, senior citizen deaths in nursing homes and, like, massive abuse in nursing homes that resulted in older people in New York disproportionately dying from COVID. Not to mention the fact that he also, like, allegedly, of course, legal allegations, whatever, harassed 13 women that worked for him and then, like, sued them. And his excuse was, hey, come on, guys, I'm Italian. Which is funny, but it's also like you're just a horrible human being, and I hate you because you hate clearly everything and everyone around you. This is gonna be so good if he wins, and I'm actually at the stage where this is the first taste of hope that I've gotten in, like, some time, like in a considerable amount of time. This is one of the few things that, like, gives me hope. Is that, like, if Zohran Mamdani succeeds in winning the mayorship of the largest city in the country, this is like, imagine if somebody ran, like, out of left field as a socialist for the mayorship of Tokyo or like Paris, Istanbul, like a capital C city in Europe, and not just like your regular socialist party, a proper populace that said, look, we're going to do rent control, we're going to do city-owned grocery stores, we're going to turn things over to the people, we're going to bolster public transit networks and make them free, we're going to what else? I'm forgetting something. I know there's something else there. We're going to tax the rich more. And, like, if that kind of politic wins in New York City, the biggest city in the country, and especially with the ability to run a social media campaign as charismatically as he has, then there is hope for this country. And that is a broad categorical statement, which, like, I know there are a few people that love to hand-wring over me making categorical statements because of, I don't know, they don't like categorical statements, I guess. I don't know how you engage with politics without those, but okay. If he wins, there's hope for America. And I mean that. I seriously do mean that. Because this is the nexus of Democratic Party power. This is, like, the thing that has destroyed progressive activism in this country for 40 plus years. Like, the reason that socialism doesn't exist in this country is not because of Republicans necessarily, at least not on their own. They needed the Democrats' help for this. And without the Democrats' help, they would not be effective enough at stopping socialism from rising. Again, it's like that Malcolm X shit, right? Like, the liberal is a more potent enemy to the socialists, or I think it was Dr. King that said this. One of the two. Sometimes I get the quote mixed up because I think they both had, like, similar things to say on this subject. The liberal is a more potent enemy to the socialist because the liberal, on an institutional level, this is something that I'm adding, is better at posing as an ally to the socialist only to suppress their efforts by trying to beat them and bring them in line with the liberals, right? The fascists are openly hostile to the socialists. They make no secret of being enemies to socialists, right? Meanwhile, the liberals will hem and haw from the sidelines and pretend that they're on the same side. And because people naturally want to extend charitability, even in a political setting, even where it might not be warranted, that has a massive effect. And the Democratic Party, of course, has been very good at this over the years. It's, in fact, probably the only thing that they have been good at, aside from losing to Republicans, is icing out the left, the real left. There were select few instances where socialist politicians and left politicians made waves in the 20th century. I think there was a well, no, you know what? Anecdotes notwithstanding, we've seen a million times throughout congressional primaries, local and state level primaries. In my state here, you know, I've seen this. I've seen this in New York. I've seen this in Ohio. I've seen this in Michigan. I've seen this. Pick a state, right? There will be a progressive challenger, and the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, and the DCCC, all the arms of the Democratic Party, will straightforwardly give preference and funding and insider information to the incumbent, the establishment candidate. Even when progressives win, when AOC won and when Jamal Bowman won, when a bunch of progressive politicians won, the Democratic Party fucking kicked into high gear to fund challengers against them from a centrist angle. If Zohran Mamdani wins, we can all take from this that artifice is too weak to work anymore. That whole machine of inside party power that can ice out progressives and socialists, that can kick them off the ballot, that can bar them from making any meaningful difference, is gone now. Effectively, we will have succeeded, at least partially, in bullying the Democrats into submission, in bullying them partially, like the Republicans did this in part. The Democratic Party will have been so weak that even on their home turf, the most home turf that you could imagine, they still couldn't win. And that is super important, because if we want to beat the fascists, the liberals need to get the fuck out of the way, because the liberals are aiding and abetting the fascists by being massive cucks and ceding ground to them, you know? And by, partially just doing the fascism themselves, you know, many of the centrist Democrats will so gleefully default to the line of law and order, fund the police more, when the police are, saying January 6th was based, actually, let me go kill some protesters real quick. I'm gonna, now that I've said all that, I'm actually, not only would I be really happy if he wins, if Zohran Mamdani wins, I might actually, just start tweaking if he loses. Fuck. You know? That gas station weed has nothing on, what my state of mind will be if the Democratic Party somehow makes Zohran Mamdani lose this primary election. All right, that's the segment. Don't let it go on for any longer. I've rambled long enough. I know there are some people that don't want to hear this, so, you know, but bullying works and is a valid political strategy. The Democratic Party is living proof of that. Anyways, I typically only stream for about 2 hours, and it's been 2 hours already. So I'm going to raid Hassan, probably. Yeah, enjoy the Hasanabi broadcast. I also, one part of the reason that I did this was because, there's so much shit going on. But also, I haven't been able to get a Switch 2 yet. I usually play Mario Kart Wii, but now that Mario Kart World is out, kind of want to play that. You know, and I have the game. Look, Mario Kart World right here. But I don't have a Switch 2, so can't do that yet. All right, I'll see you guys next time.